All right, hello for notes number 2. So at this point, you should have that worksheet done on polyatomic naming and putting polyatomics together. You should have also taken your notes on how to make covalent bonds. And so we're going to do another Cornell note style where you have this plus the summary at the bottom. And this time we're going to call it How Can We Name Covalent Bonds? So we're going to go into naming at this point. All right, so the rules for naming. Let me actually get this here to cover this up right now. So the rules are kind of similar, which is good. Now remember, these are both nonmetals. So all of the charges that we're dealing with are negative. Even the carbon, even though it can go plus or minus, carbon usually goes minus for this, okay? So the first element, there is no name change. Just like we've seen in all of these other ones. There's no name change in the first one. But in these, in the naming, the subscripts matter. So the subscripts are those little numbers. And then they're translated into Greek prefixes, which are found on the back of your periodic table right here. You'll always have these. So 1 is mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, and so forth. You'll always have these. On the first element, so this is the first element only, there is no mono. So if there's only one of the first element, you don't use mono. And you'll see in a moment what I mean by that. So let's look at an example right here. If we have P2O7, the first one is phosphorus. And because the first element has no name change, right? It's just going to be named phosphorus. But because there's 2 of them right here, do you see how there's a little 2 here? We're going to go here and we're going to see that 2 is di. So it's going to be diphosphorus. Diphosphorus. For the second one right here, we're going to, the last element always ends in IDE. So if we have O7, that would be oxygen, but we know that's going to be oxide. And we look at 7, and 7 is hepta. So this is going to be heptoxide. Notice I got rid of the A right here because this was hepta. And then there's no A, and I'll explain that in a second. Likewise, let's go over this. CO is carbon. First one's not changed, but you see how there's only one C? So carbon, there's no mono because there's only one C in the first one only, first element only. But if the second element is only 1, and we know it's 1 because there's no little subscript here, then we do monoxide. And notice here, I didn't do monoxide. I didn't do monoxide. I just did monoxide. Okay, so there's no double O. I'm sorry about that ringing of the phone. It was my mother calling. I'll call her back. So the last element ends in ide. Ide. Subscripts, di, hepta, mono. Okay. So subscripts is di, hepta, mono. Okay. Di, hepta, mono. Yep. So then there's one little thing we have to go over. This is why I don't do monoxide or heptaoxide. We can't have double vowels. It's not allowed. It's in the English language. So with oxygen, and this really happens with only with oxygen, you have to cut the A or the O off. So you would cut the A off of all of these: tetra, penta, hepta, hexa, octa, nona, deca. Doesn't happen here. Or the O with mono. And again, does spelling matter? Not necessarily. But I am going to teach you the right way to do it. Okay? It doesn't matter, but I am going to teach you the right way to do it. Okay? All right, so now let's try these. So in your notebook right now, see if you can do these. See if you can name these. Pause this and see if you can name them, because I'm going to go over them in a moment. So pause this, see if you can name them here, like showing like this, and see if you can put these into chemical formulas. All right, so let's actually do these first. This is nitrogen trisulfide. Well, there's no prefix right here. So if there's no mono or there's no nothing, we assume that there's just one, like there is in carbon monoxide. No mono on the first one, we assume there's just one. So this one must be N. And then do you see how it says trisulfide? That must mean that there are 3 sulfurs. So you would just do S and 3, NS3, nitrogen trisulfide. So again, if you didn't get these two because you didn't know what you were doing, pause it now and see if you could do these two. All right, so disulfur pentaphosphide. I spelled that wrong. Pentaphosphide. So again, we have sulfur. We know that. And see how this is a di right here? So we look here. Di is 2. So that's 2 sulfurs. And then we have phosphide. So that must be phosphorus. So we're going to put a phosphorus right here. And then it's penta. So we look and see penta is 5. So P5. Likewise, we have hexachlorine. So chlorine is Cl. And we look for hex is 6. So we have 6Cl. And then we have tetrabromide. Well, bromide is bromine. And tetra is 4. So there we go. If you're going to name these, this one right here, there's only one of them. So we don't put the mono. Remember, we don't put the mono when there's just one. And remember, the first one's always just as it appears on the periodic table. So this would be sulfur. And then 3 is tri. And the second one is always an IDE ending. So this would be trioxide. Trioxide. And then again here, C is going to be carbon. And we have the 2 oxygens. So this would be di. And then oxide. And you can have the I and the O next to each other. I set up here no double vowels. I should really mean A and O. Let's do that because these are acceptable. And then here we have the first one is phosphorus, but there's a 2 after it. So this is di. So this is diphosphorus. No name change, but there is a prefix added to it. And then this is a 3, and sulfur would become sulfide, and 3 is tri. So this would be trisulfide. And the last thing I want you to do is write me a summary. After you're done writing the summary, I need you to make sure that you've uploaded both these pages of notes. So you've uploaded these notes with your summary and these notes with your summary. You also should get your polyatomic naming and putting together formula worksheet completed. And once you have those 3 things completed, you are good to go. You are good to go if you have those 3 things completed. If you have any questions, please email me. And please be kind to the sub, as we might have rotating subs because people were not able to sub for me. So please be kind. Thank you and have a good day.